those of you who aren't familiar with the League of Women Voters, we are a nonpartisan organization that does not support or oppose any candidate. In presenting candidate forums, it is our goal to provide opportunities for voters to become better informed about the people who are running for public office. This forum is being live streamed on social media, specifically on the City of Pasco's Facebook page, and it is being recorded to be replayed on Pasco City Television Channel 191, which is on Spectrum, I believe. It will also be available for viewing on YouTube. I would now like to introduce Tracy Dial, news anchor for KNDU-TV, who will be our moderator. Tracy moderated the Richland Forum last night, and we are grateful to have her with us again tonight. Tracy?
Thank you so much, and thank you all for being here on this wonderful Tuesday evening. Let's get started. We have a lot to get to this evening, and we will be using the following format. Each candidate may make a 2-minute opening statement. We'll then move on to the question and answer period with a 1.5 time limit on responses. Both candidates will answer the same questions, alternating who goes first. We have prepared questions, but we're also taking questions from the audience. Many of you have already turned your cards in. You can lift those up, and a league member will collect it and make sure it's brought up to the stage. Candidates, I would point out our timer to you. She is right up front. She will hold up a sign when you have 15 seconds left to speak, and then a stop sign. Now, you don't need to stop right away, but please do try and wrap up your thought at that time. Let me now introduce the candidates who are here tonight vying for a place on the Pasco City Council, District 5, Position 5. They are David Milne and Ike Myram. Please come forward. Take your spot up on either side of me. For simplicity's sake, we will have them go in the order in which they filed. So once they're seated, Mr. Milne, you have the opportunity to go first.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank the Women League of Voters, everybody in the audience, and thank you for Ike as far as being here as well. I'm David Milne, and I'm a small business owner here in downtown Pasco. I've been managing and working at that cool tool store, Milne Nail Power Tool Repair. I've been there for what seems like forever, but in reality, it's been 25 years. With this experience as a store owner has allowed me to get to know my customers, neighbors, and local leaders, as well as the challenges involved in being located here in downtown district. It is also with this knowledge and energy that I brought to the Pasco City Council for the past 2 years. As for myself, I've always been fiscally conservative with a passion towards community service. In the past 10 years, I've coached football here, in Pasco, active in the local Boy Scouts, volunteer working with the Pasco School District. We're working on the 3rd high school plan. I'm also a proud member of Sunrise Rotary, with acting as their international chair for about the past 4 years. On the Pasco City Council, I've been very active as well. I'm on 5 different boards. 2 of them I actually volunteered extra. Then with that, we deal with everything from business recruitment and retention to our revitalization of the downtown. I've been also an active participant in the shoreline reconveyance issue. I believe strongly that local leaders need to decide how our shoreline is used, and it's definitely not being utilized at the moment. And then the last thing I'd like to say is I'm a husband to a beautiful wife, Nicole, who's in the audience, and I have 4 kids. We got 3 dogs, 1 cat. But overall, I'm just very privileged to represent you, Pasco, on the Pasco City Council, and I appreciate your continued support. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Myram, your opening statement, please.
Well, thank you very much, and good evening. My name is Ike Myram. I'm a candidate for Pasco City Council in District 5. I've lived in the district for about 9 years, and my wife and I have 2 daughters that are 6 and 3. We moved to Pasco because it was affordable, and it offered great access to rivers and parks and just a very welcoming community. Those are the essential qualities that I hope to preserve for our kids, but also for your kids and grandchildren as well. Our greatest legacy as a community is going to be defined by how we manage our rapid growth. We anticipate by the year 2040 an additional 50,000 people in Pasco. That's about 1.5 Walla Wallas or 12 Finleys, I believe. And we have to address these growth challenges while making sure that Road 68 and Road 100 aren't worse off, and that our financial situation as a city remains healthy. My background is in public accounting and utility regulation. That's not something I bring up a lot with parties or friends, but it will yield results when it comes to looking at budgets, city taxes, and utility rates. I have a big heart for the community. I started a program in downtown Pasco called Pasco Soup that raised funds for startup businesses and nonprofits in our community. We actually had an event right here in this facility where we raised events for youth-based projects from Pasco High School. So I'm going to bring that same collaborative approach to City Council. I intend to listen very closely to the concerns of District 5. And I want to thank the League of Women Voters and Councilman Milne for this opportunity tonight. And thanks all for being here.
Thank you. Mr. Milne, you have the first question, and we'll begin with an audience question. Is the Aquatic Center a good thing for Pasco?
That's a great question. I know I'm on the PFD board with our Mayor Pro Tem Craig, and we've been dealing with this issue. Overall, I believe an aquatic center would be good for Pasco in the west side of Pasco. My idea of what we're seeing is not exactly what I believe. I believe that if I had my druthers, it would be more of just a pool similar to what we have at Memorial Park, maybe with some extra slides, not run year-round. I know the amount of money that you could lose. I mean, at Memorial Park, we actually lose $100,000 a year on that park, and it's only open from the end of May to the beginning of September. So I've always envisioned, it's one thing to lose money, but on an aquatic center, you could definitely, they're talking estimates of $400,000 or more to have an aquatic center. And the biggest problem, which I have with the whole project, is that what I've seen is it's like a miniature Tri-City Court Club. So I would like to see a lot of stuff, but run a shorter period and just be an outdoor facility. That's what I would like to have. I'm all for pools, but I would prefer to have obviously somebody else come in. If somebody else, a private entity, come in and do it better, I would like to see the city stay out of it. But if the city was to do it, if the voters wanted it, I would prefer seeing more of a scaled down one where we're not losing massive amount of money. And so I'm on the commission. We are trying to work on it, and we are going to put it before the voters, and we'll see what happens.
Thank you. Mr. Myram.
Yeah, thank you. I think one of the great accomplishments that the City Council had this last year was advocating for state law to change so that public facility districts in the city of Pasco so voters could vote on things like the Aquatic Center. And Councilman Craig Maloney was instrumental in that effort. And so, yeah, I think giving voters a choice for an aquatic center is great. I don't know what the specifics would be. Obviously, it's got to make financial sense. It wouldn't make sense to have a program run deep in the red, but it's something that Pasco voters have supported in the past, and I think it's something that would find support again. Obviously, location is another issue as well. If it was placed on Road 100, for example, I think that could exacerbate the traffic situation there. There might be other locations like Highway 395, for example. But again, those are all in the details. Voters will have a say on it, and I'm glad that they have that ability.
Thank you, Mr. Myram. It is your turn to answer first. Pasco has more than doubled in size since the year 2000. Some of that is due to the incorporation of areas that were previously in the county. Do you think city infrastructure, things like water, sewer, and roads, are adequate to meet future growth?
Thank you. Another great question. And the answer is no. We do have really profound infrastructure needs in the city. If we want to support multi-use kinds of developments on some of our arterials like Court and Argent, we're going to need more pipe in the ground. And so the city is currently looking to finance additional water mains, water storage facilities, and that's going to be really important. I think in terms of road improvements, that's also an area of investment. And again, we have to do it in a way that makes sense financially. And that's why one of the things I'm in favor of is having balanced commercial growth around the city. If we had primarily residential areas funding that kind of infrastructure investment, it would be a burden to residential to residents. So having diverse zoning to be able to recover those costs is important.
Thank you. Mr. Milne.
I would actually disagree with Isaac. I know from what I hear on the council and just everything as far as dealing in the city council, we actually have put in roads, we have put in sewers in the new Sandifer area, which it will be the expansion of Pasco. It actually already is there, so the city actually is planning and actually has done the work to get the pipelines up there well before the plats have gone in. So on that respect, the city is doing a good job. When it comes to roads, yeah, I mean, a lot of it has to do with the development. When the city expands the roads, I know I've been a big advocate for better roads. I would like to see like what has gone out in Kennewick as far as the South Ridge area where the city built bigger roads and then let certain developments come up around it. But I know in Pasco, sometimes it's harder to get a grouping together to actually go for that. But I have been an advocate, especially, I know I've had frustrations that Chapel Hill will go from like a 5 to a 3 up to a 4. I've said, why can't we just have it 4 all the way through? But that's just not been the case. But if anybody who's actually watched the city council meeting would see that I have been promoting bigger roads and more thorough access through Pasco, especially when we're talking corridors like Chapel Hill or Road 100. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Milne. It is your turn to go first again. Is there a way to ensure that vagrancy is not allowed on Pasco streets?
I think the best thing to allow vagrancy is to allow the police department to do what they're there to do, and that's to keep law and order and to encourage development and business in downtown Pasco. I know, like Seattle, they basically stripped away a lot of the ordinances and the police rights to say if somebody's defecating on the street, they took that away from, the city council took it away from the Pasco Police Department. So I think as a city council, the best thing that we could do is make sure that we don't take away police authority, that we do work with the police department. And I've actually been very active in that. I've done police ride-alongs. I've done police ride-alongs in the downtown part of Pasco at 1 o'clock, which is, it's shocking what happens at 1 o'clock downtown Pasco on a Friday night. But the best thing I think we could do is get to know the police department, get to know them, and then do whatever we can and work with business owners, such as myself, to make sure that vagrancy doesn't become a huge problem, that we don't have homeless camps in our downtown area, which would basically destroy all the momentum that we have with the marketplace and also the Lewis Street overpass. So basically, we need to keep the laws enforced and to work with Pasco PD and do whatever we can to limit, because there is councilmen in Seattle that are promoting homeless people to come over here to Kennewick and Pasco, and they say they'll actually pay for them to come over here, so which is the truth. So I want to do whatever I can to obviously make Pasco a good place that we could go whenever.
Thank you. Mr. Myram.
Yeah, I think, in terms of, if we want to speak directly about homelessness, I mean, there are a number of vagrants that are coming through the community, but we also have folks that are from the area, and they're suffering mental health issues, addiction issues, and there are children that are living in homelessness in our community through no fault of their own. So, if we want to talk about homelessness in general, I think we need to have a comprehensive plan across the jurisdictions in our area. Currently, there exists no plan to help someone get from point A, which would be homelessness, to some form of permanent housing. And I think our local agencies need to take the lead on that. I do agree with Councilman Milne. We should have high standards in terms of the conditions of, I wouldn't be supportive of really lenient laws that would allow for, say, camps to set up in Pasco. But that being said, we also need to follow that up with a comprehensive plan that addresses the fact that folks are out there sometimes because of forces that they can't control.
Thank you. Mr. Myram, it is once again your turn to go first. Pasco is like Kennewick and Richland in that its downtown was impacted when Columbia Center Mall was built more than 50 years ago. Local stores now also face competition with online shopping. How would you describe the health of downtown Pasco, and are there ideas that could be implemented that might encourage more people to visit, shop, or eat downtown?
It's true, and there is a lot of competition with online forces. That's absolutely true. But there's also an interest and a resurgence in downtown commerce in general. I mean, I'm familiar with after Black Friday, there's also Cyber Monday and then Downtown Tuesday. I mean, people really do want to connect with their local communities. And I think the business community we have downtown is vibrant and dynamic at the moment, but there are opportunities for new businesses to come in. I think the investments that the city has made in our farmers market, for example, and new infrastructure that will really revitalize Peanuts Park, the new Lewis Street overpass, which is a key form of infrastructure investment. There was an accident, unfortunately, just a day or two ago in the underpass by a semi-truck. So that's another form of key investment. But our downtown is a gem. It's worth investing in. And I know folks I've talked to are really excited to see what's happening there currently.
Thank you. Mr. Milne.
Yes, as we both know, way back when, I mean, it used to be that for every $5 spent in Pasco, or in the Tri-Cities, 4 of it was spent in the downtown Pasco area. So obviously, I mean, we have the bones of a downtown. The problem has always been, in my opinion, that we've had a couple of businesses, one being the library, and not the one we're reading books at, and of course, a certain hotel down there that have put a bad rap on City of Pasco. I believe the best way we could do would be that making the area a lot more lighter. I've always tried to work with the DPDA as far as see what we could do to have like lights that go all in the downtown. You brighten up a place, it just makes it a lot more inviting. But when you have a place that just has a few lights, it's darker, it look grungy. So the best thing Pasco could do would be to work with the businesses, try to get these couple bad eyesores out, and which one of them is actually closed. But and then again, brighten up the place, put in what you can in flowers, and then again, heavily promote the market. Of course, the Lewis Street is vital as well. But and I can say that as a downtown business owner, I fight with this quite a lot as far as getting people to come to the downtown, and that's why I honestly believe we need to brighten up the place and maybe actually have an idea as far as how we're going to decorate our city in the next 10 years. I know it seems kind of an odd mismatch of buildings, so I'd like to see more coherent plan and basically a lot brighter.
Thank you very much, and thank you both for being here this evening. Running for a position on Pasco City Council, District 5, Position 5, David Milne and Ike Myram. Great job. Great job. I'll ask now that our candidates for Pasco City Council at-large Position 7 come forward. Let me now introduce the candidates vying for a place on Pasco City Council at-large Position 7. They are Zara Roach and Patrick Gettner. Again, for simplicity's sake, they are being addressed in the order in which they filed. So let's begin. Ms. Roach, you filed first. 2-minute opening statement, please.
Thank you so much. My name is Zara Roach. I'm running for Position 7 on Pasco City Council. It is my honor to run for my city council. This is my hometown that I was raised in. I have a unique perspective of growing up here in the 80s, where I got to see what Pasco looked like when there was 20,000 population and we only had 2 grocery stores, Albertsons and Buttrey's. You ran into everybody you knew. And we only had 1 high school, Pasco High, and everybody wore their dog collars with their year on it. And one thing we have not lost as we've grown from that rural community to a more suburban community is that hometown pride. We still have that. We're still holding on to that, and I'm really proud of that. I'm raising my family here, my 3 young kids with my husband, who is also a Pasco native. We love Pasco because it's got affordable housing, it's safe, it's got great parks and lots of beauty to offer. One of the things that I did before I came here before you to ask for your vote as your Pasco City Council person is I sought to understand local government. And the way in which I did that was by serving my community. For the past 8 years, I've been on the Planning Commission for the city, and I've been representing the people when it comes to land use and zoning. I've learned a lot about infrastructure, and it's my hope and my goal to make Pasco a more prosperous place, a stronger city, by encouraging more commercial, more business growth, more growth in our industrial sector. I refer to it as smart growth. We know that Pasco is going to have an additional 50,000 people coming in over the next 20 years, and so we have to balance that out. And I've been given my sign, so
Thank you, Ms. Roach.
thank you.
Mr. Gettner.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for your attendance. And thanks to the League of Women Voters who allowed me this opportunity. In considering me for the position of councilman for the city of Pasco, I'd ask you to consider the following qualifications: my experience, qualifications, education, skill sets, commitment, desire to serve, my involvement, and my vision for Pasco. I feel that all these parameters I have fulfilled to be the best candidate for this job. I do not like to talk about myself, but there are things you need to know about me to determine my fitness for office. I do not intend to brag, but as old Leo DeRocher, the former manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers, used to say, if you can do it, it's not bragging. So anyway, first, my experience. There's no substitute for experience. My experience has been professionally in huge projects all over this country, involved in aerospace and nuclear development. I have worked in many startup phases in these areas, and I've learned a lot about management and business areas such as quality, safety, and environment. This I plan to apply as your city councilman, although there's one factor we must always take into account that's not necessarily the bottom line as you would have in business. It's people. I'm all about people, all about Pasco. My family and I have been here for 19 years. We've raised 3 sons here and taken advantage of all the wonderful opportunities that we've had here, which are many. As such, my education, I have degrees in engineering and law. I'm working on a master's degree in public administration with EWU. My community service side, I've been everything from a scoutmaster to a squadron commander of the Civil Air Patrol. I was a captain in the 303rd Military Police Battalion of the National Guard in Tennessee. I have been a volunteer fireman, and in fact, as I sit here presently, I am a certified emergency response tech through FEMA, and I may get called out tonight. But anyway, I appreciate your consideration of these factors and ask for your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Gettner. Ms. Roach, you filed first. You get your first question. On tonight's Kennewick City Council agenda is a discussion about a detox and rehab facility using the old Trios facility that's located in downtown Kennewick. We are the only larger metropolitan area in eastern Washington without such a facility. How important do you think it is to have such a center in the Tri-Cities? And as a city council member, would you be supportive of this effort?
I think I would be really supportive of this effort because as we've seen, our law enforcement are our first responders to people who have substance abuse issues. And we're not unique. Even this small town is facing, the ugly reality of seeing people who are addicted to opioids. And so, when I took a tour last year of the Benton and the Franklin County jails, that's not the place that we want people to be detoxing. That's not necessarily what we want our law enforcement to be doing. We want them to serve and protect us, but people who are trying to detox need to be in a facility with healthcare providers so they have access to that. And I think that's really important, and I'm glad that discussion is being brought up at Kennewick City Council today.
Thank you. Mr. Gettner.
The city of Pasco is currently trying to address some of these problems. They have recently hired 4 police officers under the COPS program, COPS, that's an acronym for some federal grant that they got money for. These particular officers are dedicated to some of the homeless issues. A detox facility is something that is going to cost money. Is there really a need for it? And how much is it going to cost the city of Pasco? Those are the type questions I will be asking as a city councilman. Is there a need for it? Why is there a need? And how much is it going to cost and who's going to pay for it? I have looked at the homeless problem here in Pasco. According to the Tri-City Herald, a survey they did said there were 40 hardcore Category 4 homeless people. That's not like the 59,000 that you find in Los Angeles, but it could pose a more of a problem. I'm particularly against doing anything, building anything to draw or make a magnet of Pasco to bring more of these homeless people in here. The problems they face are psychological normally, and they could, from what I've seen, our current police officers are are doing a pretty good job in addressing this problem, although it's not maybe their duty. But anyway, I would have to really study this issue before I can say yes or no on it.
Thank you. Mr. Gettner, it is your turn to go first. Is the river reconveyance a good idea for Pasco, and are there any risks for the city?
Would you repeat that, please?
Absolutely. Is the river reconveyance a good idea for Pasco, and are there any risks to the city?
River, you say river?
River reconveyance.
Yes, well, of course, that's a contentious issue right now. The cities, of course, do not control everything there along our shorelines. The Corps of Engineers has been instrumental in that for many years. In fact, the engineer that was brought in here years ago to help develop the Columbia River as a passable, navigable river, he names Pasco. He had worked as a mining engineer in a silver mining town in Peru, and that's where the name comes from. But so that particular idea of the cities taking over, I think that will have to be something that takes place over many years as to what the people want, or what's best for Pasco. I know that the city probably has a legal claim to some of this area and so forth, but it's premature, in my opinion, for some of this riverbank shoreline to the east of us downstream to be subject to any kind of redevelopment at this time.
Thank you. Ms. Roach.
Personally, I'm pretty excited about the idea of river reconveyance. It's something that holds a lot of potential for us economically. To have that river shore as boardwalk and commercial or mixed commercial residential. And so I see it as a potential economic boon for us as a Mid-Columbia region. Some of the issues that I see as a planning commissioner and some of the things that I've heard, because I think there's a really great public outreach process happening and getting comment about, what should we be concerned with when it comes to reconveyance, and that is, removing the levees. That's one thing that I think is really serious to think about. We already have flooding in Howard Amon Park and Leslie Groves in the summertime with levees in place. So taking that seriously. Also looking at, our city budgets. How would we afford absorbing these large parcels of land? How would we maintain them? And so if we do it, I believe we should do it responsibly, and we would also have to, as a region, tackle the iceberg that is called Army Corps of Engineers. They move at a glacial pace, so.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. You're up first again. What do you think Pasco's greatest untapped potential is that could bring economic development or improve the quality of life for its citizens?
One thing, or could I name a few? I think Pasco has, I think what we have here is we've got great quality of living. We've got people who have that hometown pride that I was talking about. But when you look at Pasco, especially in this area of the city that we're in right now, we're just starting to look at how to develop it. There is an effort to bring the public market here. And we're in a happy conundrum where the city would love to have it in downtown and the Port of Pasco would love to have it at the port. And so I think what that's going to bring is a lot of business, a lot of jobs, and a lot of commerce around that area. And so I think for me, that's the one potential area that is, it's bubbling right now. It's about to go off, and I'm excited to see what happens with that.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Mr. Gettner.
Well, the biggest opportunity, of course, is this Road 100 Broadmoor area out here that has 1,600 acres in it. It's already up for sale in certain parcels. It's where the sand dune is there on North 100, if you know where I mean. There's lots of plans going on for that. They plan to build maybe up to 8 to 12,000 houses in there. They expect an increase of traffic in there of 60,000 cars over the next 10 years. So that is the biggest challenge, but it's also the biggest opportunity that Pasco faces at this time. This is an area that you want to get it right the first time. The transportation, the infrastructure, and everything else that's involved there. Certainly, I think that would be the epicenter of the commerce in this area. It probably would be the center of commerce for the whole Tri-Cities. I've heard talk of building big anchor stores and malls and so forth in there. And so that will be something that I will really look at as councilman. Make sure that the planning is done right there, that it's done in steps that we can afford, and done such that it really becomes the magnet and the gem that we want it to be.
Thank you, Mr. Gettner. Final question, you will answer first. Can City Council do anything about affordable housing?
Well, that's a market-driven thing also that the city faces. I don't know that it's a responsibility of any city to build affordable housing. Some people equate homelessness with affordable housing, and that's not true at all. A lot of these Category 4 homeless people will not even live in the nice Union Rescue Mission that we have down here. We can zone areas maybe or allow for planning of where a lower cost housing can be built. That's one of the reasons I came here. I was looking for housing in this area, and I knew nothing about the Tri-Cities at all when I came here 19 years ago. I found a quality housing and affordable housing there just west of the current Lowe's there off of 68. And as far as affordability for us personally, I felt that it was ideal because it was the houses that were being built by this developer named Aho was $20,000 to $30,000 less than what you found in Kennewick and Richland, and the quality was just as good. And of course, the access to good transportation and schools and everything else was a great attraction for us also. But as far as Pasco, just defining I'd like to know what affordable is. Someone said it's based on the people. That doesn't make sense. Affordable housing should be something that allows access for families to buy homes and so forth. I don't know what that number is or what the quantity would be, but that's a market-driven issue in my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Gettner. Ms. Roach.
Will you please repeat that question for me?
Absolutely. Can City Council do anything about affordable housing?
Absolutely, City Council can do things for affordable housing, and current City Council has done things which has come from the Planning Commission, which I'm on. We have given recommendations to change zoning in the city so that we can fit as many houses as possible within our city limits so that we don't have to continuously grow that city limits boundary further and further out into the county. One way that we've done that on the city council is we have changed the height requirements on building from 35 to 40 feet. We're not going to do skyscrapers in Pasco. That doesn't fit the theme of our cities, but we can look at elevating buildings a bit higher, and that's what we've done. One of the other ways that Planning Commission does this is annually we approve a community development block grant and the allocation of those funds. And so we give some of that money to community development housing organizations, places like Habitat for Humanity, Catholic Family Charities, and they develop housing that is affordable. So continuing in that way to support efforts by nonprofits or for-profits. One of the other things we can look at is also, our stock of housing. What type of diversity of housing do we have? And make sure that we are providing for people of all different economic backgrounds. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roach, and thank you, Mr. Gettner, both for being here. Once again, running for Pasco City Council, at large, position 7. One are Scott Lehrman and Donna Watts. Neither of them could be here this evening, so they both sent a statement for me to read. Remember, I'm reading as them. At least one is written in first person. I'll begin. This is from Scott Lehrman. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity for candidates to share information about themselves this evening. My name is Scott Lehrman, and I am running for Pasco School District Board of Directors, position number 1. And I regret that I will not be able to attend in person tonight. I currently serve on the Pasco School Board and have regularly scheduled board meeting this evening. I am grateful for the opportunity that I have had to serve on the Pasco School Board for 6 years. My profession and formal education is in chemical engineering, and my passion is ensuring that all students' all students in Pasco receive a quality educational experience. As a father of 4 with 3 Pasco students, daily stories remind me of the opportunities provided by our district's educational experts. Each story is a testament to how far we have come as a district in the recent past, as well as a reminder that there are always opportunities to improve the quality of education for all Pasco students. I believe that my leadership has been an integral driver of this positive culture shift. During my time as the president of the board, we increased transparency by recording board meetings, advocated for and received state funding to build an early learning center, passed a bond to build 4 schools, and improved communication and relationships with the community. As a board, we initiated district-wide outrageous outcomes, which are measurable, and achievable performance goals, which will continue to drive improvement in student achievement. I prioritize acting with integrity and listening to stakeholders before making impacting decisions. Being an engineer, I view challenges with a questioning attitude. Witnessing my mother's and my wife's passion for teaching has taught me that heart and emotion are also important parts of the decision-making process. I will continue to advocate for the following: responsible use of funds to reduce overcrowding in Pasco schools, equitable use of funds to ensure that all students receive the services that they require, continuous improvements in all areas of district and student performance, and transparent communication with stakeholders, families, and students. It has been my greatest honor to be entrusted with Pasco's 2 most valuable resources, children and their education, and the taxpayer funding which makes this education possible. As a volunteer and a servant leader, I look forward to continuing to serve the community in this capacity with your vote and your support. Thank you, Scott Lehrman. Donna Wantz also sent a statement. It sort of reads a bit like applying for a job, so I'm just going to read it. Candidate statement: elected experience, first-time candidate. Other professional experience: certified public accountant, finance director, and auditor of a local special purpose district. Education: Pasco high school diploma, Columbia Basin College, an AA, University of Washington, BA, Keller Graduate School of Management, master's in finance and accounting. Students, now we get to the statement. Student safety and empowering them through education gives them a future and a hope are my top priorities. It is imperative our kids feel safe at school and parents feel safe sending their kids to school. It is essential every child graduates from high school to provide a better future for them. To continue to grow a vital community and motivate students from dropping out, we need to work with local businesses to understand their needs in the labor market so we can provide additional training for students to have a career after high school. I'm pro-college and believe we should give every student the tools needed to pursue that path. Having a high school diploma will make it easier for graduates to return to higher education later in their lives if they so choose. My professional career is in public finance, and I understand the importance of the budget process and when financial decisions need to be made to accomplish the school board's goals. In being elected and moving forward, I will work diligently with the board to do what is best for the students. Currently, I have 3 children enrolled in the Pasco School District. Donna Watts. Now I'd love to introduce you to the other candidates who are vying for a spot on Pasco School Board, this time position number 2, Stephen Castellano and Jesse Campos. I apologize, this is Stephen Castellano. He's laughing, I don't think I got it right again. Castellano.
Yeah.
Stephen Castellano and Jesse Campos. All right, we'll begin with Mr. Castellano. You filed first. You have 2 minutes for an opening statement, please.
Yes.
Whenever you're ready. No rush.
I came here in January 2018, basically as an Oregon immigrant, a divorcee with a broken heart, but I also had my education, and I had a business that I'm bringing to Pasco. And I will stay in Pasco for the rest of my life if I have my way. I got involved in the community and decided this is my home. I'm done being a nomad, moving from place to place, from state to state. I'm done. This is home. The only two exceptions to that would be if and when I get accepted to Oxford University, and if and when I do, I will stay registered to vote in Pasco and vote in our elections and come back after I finish my PhD, and business trips if I ever have to travel for business. But this is my home. I will eventually, hopefully, buy a house here and make my money here. I am poor and I'm committed to public service, and I have solutions and ideas, and that's why I chose politics. Some people don't like that, but I'm here to offer my service to Pasco.
Thank you. Mr. Campos, 2 minutes.
All right. Well, thank you for inviting me here today. I'm really honored. Well, my name is Jesse Campos. I'm a proud parent of Maria, Caleb, and Lily. I'm also humbled to be married to the most beautiful lady in the whole wide world, Miriam, my beautiful wife. I am currently obtaining my grad degree in mental health counseling, and I'm excited for that. I'm a huge volunteer in Pasco, and I have opened and served nonprofits here in Pasco. I'm gonna go down what I've done. Mad Outreach was serving at-risk youth here in Pasco. Mad Outreach can mainly making a difference. I worked at Jubilee Youth Ranch, which is a behavioral modification program, as a resident director. Opened up a teen challenge here in Pasco, serving youth and adults that are struggling with addiction. Also opened up Freedom Outreach, which is a gang intervention prevention program to serve at-risk kids in our school district in the Tri-Cities. I'm currently executive director, volunteer director at Tri-Cities Dream Center, which we have several outreaches to serve Pasco in the Tri-City area. One of them is Operation Red Eye, which we go out and help the homeless and those within the margins here in Pasco and the Tri-Cities. I've also worked at Boys and Girls Club as a resident, actually as a branch director, helping kids there. Also a gang interventionist for the Juvenile Justice Center. I'm a contracted, worked with City of Yakima, worked with City of Sunnyside and Walla Walla and Benton City. Right now I'm a chairman also, volunteer chairman for our City of Pasco Inclusion. Sorry, I'm nervous because Son Shanton's here, so sorry, Son. Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Commission. And I'm also a board member for the Restoring Hope for the Union Gospel Mission as well. I am passionate. I'm stopping, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Campos. Mr. Castellano, you get to go first. And perfectly, we have 4 questions from the audience, so we will use all 4 of those. Where are we as a district with dual language programs, and how will it continue with all of the other demands?
It will be a top priority to make sure everyone learns English and be able to learn foreign languages as well. And for people who do not speak English as a first language, DSL learners or the English language earners need special attention, and we need funds for that, and I suggest that we get them from the state. And we also need special attention to the disabled students, the ones who may be autistic or whatever, and be able to have their programs and their accommodations too.
Thank you. Mr. Campos.
Can you please repeat your question?
Absolutely. Where are we as a district with dual language programs, and how will it continue with all of the other demands?
Wow, I really support the dual language programs here in our Pasco School District. Looking at statistically, a lot of students achieve more. Understanding the dual language process, it doesn't have to be Spanish, but other languages as well. How do we support that with other demands in our district? Man, really is having partnerships with other agencies within our city, and really just try to balance everything out. I mean, it's something that you have to look at, because I believe being a director in a school district, you really have to look at everything as a whole and not just focus on one. But I really believe that the dual language program is a must, and I believe it's our future here in Pasco.
Thank you, Mr. Campos. You will go first on this next question. Do you believe teachers should be armed in the classrooms?
Teachers be what?
Armed.
Armed in classroom. Safety is huge, and looking at the violence within our nation with school shootings and whatnot, it's one of our priorities here is having our kids safe in schools. Having our teachers armed, really they're under a lot of pressure. And to have an armed gun on them or something, I think is going to add a lot more pressure with that. It may even cause some other setbacks for the school district. I believe that we have SROs there, that school security, as far as Pasco Police Department's there. I believe that's a great thing that will keep our kids safe. We have security in junior high and high school as well that are also looking for safety for our kids. So at this time, I really believe that teachers should not be armed. But if we ever come to a moment in time that we have to do that, it's up for discussion. And again, but the safety is first, and we believe our kids should be safe in school.
Thank you. Mr. Castellano.
I believe it is a lot of pressure to put on a teacher to be responsible for a loaded firearm in their classroom. I believe the curriculum should be first priority in our budget, but for safety, part of the curriculum, I believe for years, should be martial arts and discipline training for students, but we can also extend that to teachers in their training, so maybe they know how to disarm somebody with their foot instead of a gun.
Thank you. Mr. Castellano, you will go first again. How will you support LGBTQ youth?
I'm a strong believer in civil rights and civil liberties. I believe that there shouldn't be any violence against any group. They need to be protected. If there's ever a problem, like any group needs to be protected. That's all I really have to say. They deserve respect and dignity like everyone else. Big supporter of that.
Thank you. Mr. Campos.
I really believe everybody deserves education, safety, and fairness and justice. So I don't think we should look at as far as the LGBTQ student as that's what they are, but as a student first and foremost, and look at them and say what are the problems that they address as any student. Is there anything going on in their lives that are stopping them from getting their education or obtaining their education? Again, safety is number one on our list, regardless of what they believe in or who they say they are or where they live at or what color of their skin. I believe everybody deserves education, a safe environment, and acceptance. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Campos. You will go first again. Do you support comprehensive sex education?
Yikes. Okay, so that's a good question. Comprehensive sex education. I remember in growing up in the school district, we had sex education at, I think it was 5th grade. And I believe that we do need to educate our kids as far as sex education, because oftentimes we see young kids having babies having babies. But I think if they get knowledge, and the question is, can we stop them from having sex? That can be debatable. But if we educate them to have safe sex, if we educate them to do and what not to do, and we can hopefully help them obtain from doing that, or having other risk factors in there as well, and knowing that they are educated. So I really believe that we need to have that in the school district.
Thank you. Mr. Castellano.
I believe in comprehensive and truthful sex education. Fifth or sixth grade is probably fine. And I believe it needs to be truthful. They need to know abstinence is the only full sure method of not getting pregnant, not getting STDs. They need to know what contraception is and how to use it if they choose not to follow our advice. And we need to reduce the numbers of, teen pregnancy and STDs and all that stuff among our children and adults. They need that education throughout their life. So it needs to both be comprehensive and absolutely honest. And it needs to cover everything that they need to know that is good to benefit their lives.
Thank you. Because each of you were so succinct in your answers, I believe we have time for one more question. Should you choose to accept the challenge? Okay. Pasco is the fastest growing school district in our area. How well prepared is the district to keep up with future growth? And are there other preparations that could be made to be ready for such growth? Mr. Castellano, it's your turn.
The state funding formula for education will make that next to impossible. We need to fight the state to have it based on future estimates because we're a growth city and not on historical data that already happened. It needs to be based on the future, and that would be a much more fair and equitable way to deal with education funding in this state, and we need to lead a fight to get that funding formula changed.
Thank you. Mr. Campos.
Can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
Absolutely. Pasco is the fastest growing school district in our area. How well prepared is the district to keep up with future growth? And are there other preparations that could be made to get ready for that growth?
Man, I think the school district is doing a great job right now. As we know that our schools are packed, so let's look at the future and look at the growth that is coming. So what can we do? And then unfortunately, we have to look at the budget. What can we do? We have to look at being truthful to ourselves and not go too fast, but go with the pace of the growth of our city. And we have to really look at and ask our teachers. I think, again, looking at education as a whole, are our teachers well equipped to have 30, 35 kids in the classroom because of the growth? So we really need to look at that and look at the classroom sizes, look at the classroom growth, look at the other schools that we need to develop. But again, we all have to look at the budget and what a city is ready to do, and listen to the community and see what we can do together as a whole.
Thank you very much, and thank you both so much for participating tonight. Once again, Stephen Castellano and Jesse Campos vying for a spot on the Pasco School Board, position 2. Great job, Mr. Castellano. Thank you all so much for attending this evening. Don't forget to vote coming up on November 5th. Remind your friends and your neighbors, and just thank you so much for being here tonight. And of course, thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting such wonderful events for us.